Welcome everyone to another episode of Dynamics Corner. Copilot, jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. I'm your co-host, Kris.
And this is Brad. This episode was recorded on January 29th, 2025. Kris. That was a good little jingle. Did you use Copilot to write that?
Which
Be
part?
honest.
No,
Oh,
I did not.
see?
I did not use Copilot for that. But you did say a comment. You used that term, jack of all trades, master of none. And then I realized there's actually a full quote. And this was very fitting when you said that. I was like, very fitting. Because
I like that. And that was fitting because today we had the opportunity to dive deeper into this world of AI, which everyone seems to be talking about. And there's a lot of information to unravel, and there will be a lot of information to unravel in the future as well too. With us today, we had the opportunity to speak with Sai Turlapati about Copilot, AI, and many other things. Sai,
hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, good
How are you
morning.
doing?
Hey, good morning, Kris. Good morning, Brad. How are you guys?
Very good.
Well. Very well. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Been looking forward to speaking with you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I heard a lot of episodes. I'm really interested to talk to you guys and learn so much from your podcast.
I think today we're interested in speaking with you and learning a lot from you, or hearing a lot from you about some popular topics that I see a lot of information on, and you also share a lot of information about, which is exciting. I'm getting old, so it's all difficult for me, and it's very difficult for me to keep up with everything that's going on. It seems that everything's accelerating quickly, and I just can't keep up. But that's why we get to talk with people such as yourself to hopefully share some insights to help us get a handle and a better understanding on some of the technology that is available to us. Before we get into the topic, would you mind telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Sai Turlapati. I am in the IT industry for the past almost 20 years. I saw the Y2K during the time I was very young, fresh out of the college, and trying to understand that mainframe transition and other things. Then I saw mobile revolution, then cloud revolution. So there are these waves of technology revolutions that we saw, and I was able to ride those waves. And recently, for the past few years, I was very interested in the AI space. So I looked at the different, who are the players in the AI space, especially enterprise AI. In the enterprise AI, Microsoft, Claude, who is Anthropic is the company that creates this Claude, like OpenAI is having ChatGPT. These are the players, especially in the B2C space. That's how I see it. In the B2B space, Microsoft, Amazon, Oracle, and Google are the players. But predominantly, I see Google with Gemini and Microsoft with their own Azure framework. They started with Azure with the backend trying to talk to any LLMs, but finally they decided to just create a wrapper around it and explore the the LLMs that are being developed by other players. So that's how I got interested in this space, and I feel like the first wave of the impact of AI is going to be in the enterprise side, at least, and the customer service and sales. That's how I see it, because that's where there is a quick value that enterprises can see. So in that space, I evaluated who are the top players in the CRM and customer service. Salesforce is one of the top players, and Microsoft is another one. HubSpot is there. Sage CRM is there. Those are very good players. So in that, I looked at who can really help the enterprises who are having the end-to-end story. When I looked at it, Microsoft is having the Teams, right? Microsoft Teams, and Salesforce is having the Slack, that's the company that they bought. So those two are going to be really competing in that space for in the AI to get the enterprise adoption. And one thing that Salesforce is not having, especially lacking, is the cloud story. Whereas Microsoft is having the good cloud story. I looked at the Google. Google is GCP is having cloud stories, so as Amazon, but they don't have the enterprise software such as Dynamics 365, ERPs or CRM, customer service, and all those things. Then I felt like, okay, this I am in my 40s. I feel like I need to bet on one of the real vendors who are going to take me to next 10 to 20 years. I looked at Microsoft. I felt like, okay,
You took your
Microsoft is
bet
having good.
on Microsoft versus Google.
Yes. Yes,
Y-
because Google is not having Chris. Google is not having any ERP or CRM. They tried to buy the HubSpot, but they withdrew that bid recently. So for any cloud vendors, or for that fact, for any enterprise companies to build the CRM and ERP systems, it's long. It takes long time, and also the important thing is the user base, right? They can build the efficient software solutions, but I feel like attracting the users is a difficult thing.
So you're going with Microsoft for the B2B enterprise company to have a larger adoption within the B2B space because of the exposure to businesses with the existing applications that they can build upon utilizing AI. Well, you covered a lot. See, it's already a lot on there.
We're just getting into it, man.
I know. We're scratching the surface. We got into it. I'm still back at. See, my mind is still processing. I'm still back at Y2K, which I remember when that was the end, and I almost wonder.
Yeah.
Maybe would we have been better off if it did end then or not? But you had mentioned Microsoft with AI. I mean, Microsoft AI one to me, artificial intelligence is a very generic term because AI encompasses a wide spectrum of topics. We hear I can't even cover all of the points for it because, a lot of times people just think of the LLMs. You mentioned ChatGPT. And recently we've seen some in the news, some other local large language models allow processing locally. So it's there. So with Microsoft and AI and the adoption, or where you see the adoption to B2B to adopt, utilize, and gain benefit from the use of AI in the organizations or increase some efficiencies. How do you see and position the Microsoft tools to be able to use these AI features, and what are some benefits that you see an organization can get from using AI?
Yeah, sure. Especially, that's a very interesting question. In the B2B space, especially Microsoft is having very good footprint, especially with the Microsoft 365, Office 365 suites. And the way I see is especially the users, when ChatGPT came, that is a aha moment in the artificial intelligence revolution, right? Everybody thought that it is going to take some time, but the user interface for ChatGPT is just a prompt. I looked at the landscape in the enterprise computing who are having that prompt readily available. There, I see there are broadly three players. One is Microsoft Teams, and another one is Slack, which Salesforce own, and third one is Zoom, right? Zoom calls, people are used to this video. Now they started the chatting also. So those are the three predominant players. For humans to have that kind of interaction from B2C space where ChatGPT, Anthropic, Google Gemini and other players are there, to convert that B2C space, that chat experience, prompt experience, into the enterprise experience of the business users, I feel like these three predominant companies, like Microsoft with Teams, Salesforce with Slack, and Zoom, are the three players that are going to be really taking this enterprise AI to the next level. Those are the user interfaces because people already have the experience of using prompting the ChatGPT.
I hear
So they
I hear the
go
word
ahead.
prompting, within AI,
Mhm.
and I hear individuals talk about how to become a prompt engineer or prompting, tips and tricks for prompting. What is prompting, and how does someone come about with the prompting? And we're talking with large language models and prompting. How can those be utilized within the B2B space? How does someone understand what prompting is and maybe how to construct a prompt to get the results that they're looking for accurately? But I also want to hopefully get into also this new thing that I'm hearing about, which is agents, to where maybe it expands to a little bit more than just prompting or typing for information, getting information back, where you have an agent that can possibly do something. So it will take some tasks that are possibly repetitive or tasks that can be automated in a sense, to allow for someone to have more time and opportunity to do other tasks. So how does that all
Right.
fit within the B2B space? How does the prompting work? What can you do with the prompting? And also then with these agents that are being created, I know within Business Central, we see a lot of news about Microsoft adding agents and agent previews that are available, and talking about that. It's not even within Business Central. I see the word agent everywhere. I think it's going to be, I think the word of 2025, if we could talk about it, would be agentification or agentizing. And
Agentic. I hear that too.
Agentic,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, that's a very good question, and very reflective and introspective question. What is prompt? Prompt is nothing but, at least in my words, prompt is nothing but asking a question. How do you ask a question? Is a prompt. How do you ask a question to a computer? In this case, the AI bot is a prompt. The way you ask a question and the way you respond to a question is also a very interesting, leadership insight. I read a book, or I listened to a book called "How Great Leaders Ask Questions." So, uh, the way we structure the question, uh, and what is the strategies that we can use in order to structure your question enables the person to gather more information. So this prompt is nothing but the way you ask a question to the bot or AI agent, right? AI on the other side, and the AI computer or AI bot or AI chat, we call it in the Microsoft setup, we call copilot, right? UI. So the way we structure the prompt involves different strategies, right? First, we can give the context. We say that, hey, what is the news today? Is a prompt. We can ask that as a prompt. Or what is the news today in the United States in the financial sector? Is more specific. So we are able to structure it and ask a question to get a intended answer for us. So prompt depends on how fine grained, means how specific we are. The answer is going to be that much clear from the AI agents or AI bots. So you touched a lot of topics, Brad. So I agree with you. This 2025 is going to be the age of agents. When we talk about agents, I remember the movie that I watched in 1998, Matrix. Right? I'm sure everyone remembers about that movie. The agents. So the difference between the way I look at it is, the difference between agent is a autonomous thing. That's what Salesforce is also calling them. And Salesforce came up with the agent force as one of their solutions, and they are going full-fledged how Microsoft came with Copilot. Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, very clearly articulated that Copilot is the user interface that humans are going to interact with LLMs or the AI machines, right? And the back end is going to be the agents who are going to do the work. If we try to do that in the, correlate that space into the Power Platform, I feel like agents are nothing but
Power Automate.
Power Automate, right? Yeah, are nothing but a Power Automate for flows, right? Copilot, when the user interface, when user prompts or ask a question that goes to the agents, Microsoft, interestingly, in one of their documentation, they referred agents in three ways. One is a responsive agent, another one is a task-based agent, and third one is autonomous agent. So I feel like, Kris, you are right. When we talk about agent, which can go and do a task and come back, it is like a Power Automate flow, right? People who are aware of this Microsoft Power Platform knows what Power Automate is, which is nothing but a RPA space. UiPath is another company that they do in the RPA space, that they provide the solutions. So for our context, agent is nothing but a a software program in the backend that goes and completes a task without giving the information. Then what is the difference between, now comes the question, what is the difference between Power Automate and the agent, right? Power Automate, we use to go in the Power Automate. If I want to create a flow, I need to go and drag and drop all the required components. What is the trigger? What it needs to do? The Power Automate means send the email. Let us take a simple use case, right? If we want to read an email based on the incoming email, I just want to create an Excel sheet or Word document and send that information back to a team. If I take that use case, in order for us to do that use case, right now in the Power Automate, I need to go and create a trigger, say that, hey, incoming email is the trigger to this email box. Once we get that email, then do this processing, read the email and create that Excel or Word and send that information to the teams. That I need to go and do that. But Microsoft now recently, they created a copilot for Power Automate. Now I can go to the Copilot and say that, hey, create this workflow. So this workflow of reading anticipating for the email and reading the email and creating a Word document or Excel and sending it to them.
So stepping back
Excel,
really quick,
this.
Sai, you mentioned Copilot basically more of a the way I look at it, sounds like to me Copilot is more of a translator. You ask a prompt of what you want based on what's available for you within your maybe tenant, then it chooses the correct agent to respond.
Correct.
So it's almost like a translator, right? Like for that prompt, because as you know, in the B2B space, when you're creating or you're interacting with Copilot within your organization, it should only respond based upon what's available to it. Right.
So you are right, Kris. So the Copilot is like you said, it's basically an interface. It does some operation. It manages the agents. You can say that it's a orchestration piece where it takes the information from the user, and based on the available agents, it will direct the agents, orchestrate the agents to go sequence of tasks and come back and provide the answer to the user, to the human or to the user in the NLP, natural language processing. So now the way we interact with the copilots or AI agents is completely changed. From the mouse, we take that and click that different buttons to get the information. Now we are using natural language processing to talk to, like how we are able to talk to other human, like how we are discussing. We are able to just enter the information to the copilot. Microsoft is having their own lab called Copilot, Microsoft Labs. They are experimenting with voice also. So like how we are discussing, they have a Copilot voice. The Copilot voice, we can just enable the voice and we can say that, hey, this is the task that we want to do. Then it can go ahead and create the agents and orchestrate the agents and come back and with the answer. So in one of the recent interviews also, I think Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, he told that SaaS in the future, SaaS may be what is SaaS applications. SaaS is software as a service applications, right? They are basically a CRUD applications, means they are having a database. On the top of the database, the user interface provides the user to interact to perform the CRUD operations. If we take CRM, right? CRM is having a sales module. In that, there are certain database tables which are in the Power Platform called Dataverse, and the Dynamics 365 CRM sales module provides the user interface for the users to go ahead and create, say, codes, purchase orders, leads, and opportunities, all those things. In the future, what is going to happen is people are expecting that may be sooner, maybe within next few years. Instead of user going to the sales application and entering the information, people will go to the prompt copilot, sales copilot, and they say that, hey, this is a new lead that I got. This is the, take the picture, say that, hey, create a lead information in the Salesforce, in the sales of Dynamics 365. It should be able to create that information. So the user experience itself may be, completely changing the way users interact with these enterprise applications. Maybe really
That
changing.
that could take me down a completely separate path, because Kris and I recently spoke about that as well, as far as how we interact with data, how we retrieve data, and having the ability to use natural language to interface with that. But I'm still trying to go back to way back to the beginning of prompting to get information out. How do we come up with and how do we learn and how do we know to come up with the proper prompt, either for, to go back to the points that you had mentioned, either it's data retrieval or language and learning. I type, create me a picture, or ask some information based upon the data that the model has been trained on, or in the construct of what you and Kris had mentioned with the Power Platform, to utilize Copilot Studio, in a sense, which I want to get into, to create these tools for us, basically our own agents. But where I get confused is, we mentioned task-based agents.
Mm-hmm.
How is there variability in tasks? Because I still say something that I tried to do, I wish I could do, is even something as simple as scheduling, taking my emails, taking a look at my calendars to be able to automatically reply. Like even with the podcast, for example, we do a lot of scheduling of the guests, such as yourself, with the podcast, with the pre-podcast planning calls. Kris, you have to fix that. Pre-podcast planning calls, to the actual schedule of the recording, taking a look at calendars, taking a look at time zones, to offer and suggest times that best fit based upon availability, time zone, and such. There's a lot to that. And is that something that could be done, and how could you do that? Or is that multiple agents within Power Automate, and how does it learn and know what to do based upon the rules?
Right. So now you give a very good use case, Brad. Just to schedule this podcast, how can the agents be useful, right? So how can we create or orchestrate these agents?
Within Copilot Studio, going with the Microsoft, I use Outlook, for example, and my email is using, Kris, what is it, Outlook as well, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's all within that space. So utilizing that, how could I do that? I hear a lot about Copilot, and I hear a lot of things that we have agents that can do anything. I'm just trying to see a practical use and example of it.
Yeah, sure. So let's say, let's take that use case that you mentioned about the podcast, right? For us to do create these Microsoft AI agents or Microsoft Copilots, broadly, there are two ways that we can do it right now in the Microsoft platform. One is using the Microsoft came up with a Copilot Studio that is part of the Power Platform, that provides the tools and knowledge bases and inbuilt agents also that enable the user. That's a low code, no code platform, Copilot Studio, where the users can go ahead and create the AI agents. And another way to do that in the Microsoft platform is Azure AI Foundry. Microsoft just recently launched Azure AI Foundry, which is based on the we can go ahead, we can use the Azure AI Foundry and create the agents using different LLMs that are available, such as we can use OpenAI. Microsoft is having 49% stake in the OpenAI, so they get exclusive access to the OpenAI models. Or we can use Anthropic models, or we can use Llama, which is Meta's open source AI models. So broadly, we can do it in two ways. One is Copilot Studio, Microsoft Copilot Studio, or Microsoft Azure AI Foundry. For our conversation, I have good experience in, I created a couple of agents in the using Copilot Studio. So we can do the use case that you mentioned using the Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio is a very easy way for us to create the agents. Previously, Microsoft used to call as copilots. They renamed it a few months back to agents. So to create any agent, we need broadly 2 or 3 things. First one is, what is a knowledge base, right? Based on what the agent need to create the information. Second one is tasks. These tasks are nothing but the tasks that just you outlined to create this podcast. We need to look at, first evaluate this, participants, send them an email, and have the review session. So we can create, we need to break down into different tasks. And the task, Microsoft is very good, especially in the Copilot Studio. They came up with a lot of connectors. We can connect with the Outlook, which is a native thing. So we can easily connect to the Microsoft Outlook and create a task and send an email. If we want to talk to any other databases or like Riverside, if we are trying to use, we will go ahead and see whether the Copilot Studio is having any Riverside connector. If not, users can create that custom connectors. So Microsoft enabled all these features for the low-code, no-code developers to create these kind of connectors to create the agent. So the agent can be created. First, this podcasting use case, we can break down into tasks, and each task we can go ahead and create. It is similar to creating a workflow in the Power Automate.
You're muted, by the way, Brad.
You are muted, Brad.
Shh, don't tell anybody. Because I was getting excited and I had to mute myself because I wanted to hold back. So I can create an agent that will send an email to Sai. Sai, we'd like to speak to you on the podcast. Are you okay? I'm simplifying maybe one use case. And the other case is where individuals contact us and say they would like to speak with us about a topic, which we enjoy getting those emails as well. So I can say, email Sai, ask him to be on the podcast. You'll reply yes. So the agent can reply to that email knowing that the original email was sent out as a request to the podcast. Response is, whatever verbiage is yes. And then the agent can respond and say, okay, let's do this. Let's set up a planning call. Is this time good for you? Or here's these times that are good for you based on rules or based on
our calendars. You give
if we could
access
do
to
this,
calendars.
this would be amazing. So I can send out the email. The response would come back. It would automatically send dates based upon a calendar for availability. The participant would be able to then respond with, this works best for me. And then it would automatically schedule and put in the text that I like to use and all that stuff.
And the link, because the studio link is,
Hey, that's correct, Brad. Yeah, that's correct, Kris. So what, now we are getting into very interesting.
We need to do this afterwards. If we can really do this, I would like to schedule time with you.
We can certainly set it up.
Is this something you can do and then send to me?
Yes, I think we can try that.
We'll do a follow-up because I want to see this in action, because that is such a good experience and good use of the tools as well as saving time.
Not only that, you will have, this Kris and Brad will have their own agents, right? To send the email, to schedule this. I will have my own agent. So as soon as that is hooked to my email, right? So as soon as I see any request or any information, if I want, my agent will respond to your agent. I can create a small agent. Say that, hey, if I am going for this podcast or speaking, once I get an email, I create a small agent and say that, hey, just respond back with my email ID, with my calendar availability next couple of weeks to your agent. So this is going to be really agent orchestration, right? At your end, you will have a couple of agents which will be triggering the email or receiving a email. I can just next time I will send an email, say that, hey, I'm interested in your podcast. Or I will just ask Copilot, say that, hey, next couple of weeks, I am interested to, I have this time. I want to really talk and get to know more about what is happening in the dynamics with Brad and Kris. So I will just ask the Copilot, and the Copilot goes and talks to my agent and send an email to you guys, and your agent can pick it up and look at your availability and schedule and confirm something back to my agent.
There's actually
You can do that.
two places where I can see this working. Right now, our website has a place for you to be a guest, right? You fill out your information and stuff, and we get an email. So we could use a Power Automate to collect that
Right.
information, and based on that
Mm.
information, then we can use Copilot to act upon that, where it looks at our calendars, make sure that it answered, we got all the information it needs, and then it can, schedule that for us. And number two, we can even put Copilot on our website probably, and
Right.
Sai can interact with it. It's going to ask all the questions that the form would have asked anyway, collect that information based on Sai's responses, notifies us, and looks at our calendars and let us know, like, hey, Sai's interested in this, and then schedule all it out, and we just show up and have a conversation.
Yes. Yes.
I like the use case because it's to go back to where I started with this, is we hear all this AI agent, we hear prompting, we hear models, we hear all this, but I hear it, well, you can do anything or you can do specific tasks. Now I'm trying to just put my head around something as simple as scheduling with somebody to be on a podcast. Or somebody could do this on their own for something else, even lawn maintenance. If somebody has a landscaping or a lawn maintenance company, or even electrical services, any type of scheduling that you need to go through, we usually have an individual going back and forth. I know often I'll use what they used to call find time, or whatever that is, where you can say, okay, here's several dates and times, pick the ones that work the best, and then from that. But that's, to me, is not such an elegant experience sometimes.
Right.
So I would like the more personal interaction of, I'm sending an email to Sai. Step one, Kris, I like the idea of also taking and ingesting on the inside, then all of a sudden stuff shows up on the calendar. And then we just do it. I think that's also great.
And I think you can even prompt it where, like, do not schedule anything
Yes.
within the space, because maybe you're already busy, and then look at, if there's already existing one, and you can specify, say, only schedule between these days or between these times.
Right.
Oh, we have to do this. Okay, so we can set it up to where we have an agent in Power Automate that will send an email. It will send an email based on me just saying, send an email to Sai to be on the podcast. Right?
Yeah.
I can just like that.
We can easily do that. Yes.
And then we'll send an email to Sai with a template with the information that's pertinent to Sai, so that he understands what the podcast is. Then you'll reply. The agent will read the reply, and we can say, go look at this calendar and this calendar, and propose some times based on Sai's time zone. Oh,
Yeah.
I like this.
That is important, right?
I'm trying to think of the variability here, because these are the
Time zone.
scheduling challenges. We record at all hours of the day to make accommodations for everyone's schedule that's going to person.
So how much time you spend, Brad? I think looks like it's a lot of efforts for you, to host this kind of a podcast, right? Look at the just calendar, simple task of calendar.
Well, it's looking at calendars, going back, making sure that the time's appropriate for the guest, because as we say, it's anybody who's been on, in the planning call, we talk about that, when they're at their best, when it fits them. We try to work around trips. Wow. If somebody has conferences to go to, for example, or if there are holidays, and sometimes individuals don't mind we'll do a recording on a holiday or something. So there are some variables in there that based upon, we may need to find out which times work best for you. But it is a lot to juggle schedules for many calendars.
So how do you guys do? Do you guys outsource that piece of
We
work?
do outsource it to me.
Yeah.
Man, it's a lot of work, Brad. Then a lot of energy, guys.
The scheduling
it requires a lot of work.
The scheduling is, I'd want to say it's a full-time job, but to try to do proper scheduling, and I like to do things properly as well, as you see when you go through the experience, to make sure that everybody has an enjoyable experience as they go through this with a little bit of a personal touch as well. But it does take some time, because we have several calls per week that we do on top of everything else.
It'll be fascinating though, because once we get all this solved, right? Is to have a system, or maybe Copilot or an agent, where it takes all of our files and says, I want you to edit this for our podcast video. And it just does it for us. Right now, it's all manual, man.
Yes.
We do it manually.
That is also a lot of work.
Chris does the post-production. We have a process, and it works well because of timing. I'll do a lot of the scheduling, interfacing with the guests that come on, that we are extremely appreciative of everybody that spends the time with us. Its time is extremely valuable. I know, to me personally, and Chris and I talk about it, because it's what we have. Once you use it, you don't get it back. You don't get a redo of a minute. So
you are a wise man, Brad. That's people realize that very late. I am realizing now. I think time is the real essence
it is.
of
It
life.
takes you do have to get to a certain point in life, I think, where just maturation in life. That this is something I wish everyone always asks me, what would you tell your younger self? That's one of the things I would tell myself is, one, listen to those that have gone through a lot, because their experiences, I'm not saying you have to listen to the experience as far as following, but sometimes just listening objectively to somebody's experiences and maybe learn from them, instead of thinking, they don't understand. I can do this, I can do that. And also time, where you spend your time and what you spend your time on, you cannot value anything more than that. But to go back to what we talked about, so I do a lot of the scheduling, Chris does the post-production. Hopefully at some point we can incorporate some AI into it, which thankfully Riverside has added quite a bit, that we can do some stuff. But Chris, I don't want to jump the gun yet. I'm still trying to go back to the scheduling to save myself some time, and we'll set this up and I won't even tell Chris, but I have to go through all the scheduling.
I think, like you said, you put it well perfectly about the time spent, where I think Copilot AI in general is really, really important for the future, but then, because at that point, as we use it more, we don't trade time for money. We get to a point where I want to trade time for experiences, right? And that's going to be important in the future for my view, because as like you said, Sai, you want to make sure you're utilizing your time in the right places and not trading it for money every single time. Life is short.
That's
it is.
Short, yeah.
It really is. It's you go through phases. I thought we're getting philosophical, and I don't mean to digress. Maybe I'll just stop. I could go down the philosophical road forever, but time. So we'll go back to the efficiency of time. So we can set up an agent to send an email. We can set up an agent to read an email, and then based on the contents of the email, work on scheduling the podcast. I have to see this work.
That's a good use case, at least in 2025. Maybe next 2026, 27, we just need to talk to that, Copilot or the UI, the prompt, say that, hey, this is what we want to do. It has to, it may be going and doing all this, scheduling and creating all this for us. Maybe right now we need to enter the prompt on the keyboard. In the future, there are NVIDIA, all these companies are investing heavily on voice-based. So we just talk to them. Hey, I have a question. Do you guys recently, OpenAI released Operator? Did you guys look at that Operator demo?
I watched the demo of, again, you need to have, from what I read, you need to have OpenAI Plus, so whatever that means,
$200.
The expensive plan, which I understand, but that was impressive as well, is it would go to a website and interact with the website I saw it do the scheduling. I saw it do reservations and a number of other things. That is impressive.
That's very interesting. That is impressive. Yeah, I have a question for both of you. Given you guys have so much of experience in the IT set, right? So technology-wise, in the leadership roles and all those, how do you see this enterprise AI evolving? So I shared my thoughts, right? And going back to that mainframe era, I know a lot of companies like banks, insurance companies, they are still on mainframe given the architectures, in the enterprise computing, it is very difficult to move to the latest and greatest given SLAs and, lawsuits and all those things, right? So, on the Java side, I worked in Sun Microsystems in India for almost 3 years. The guy who invented Java also, I was part of one leadership committee way back. So I was able to meet that guy, James Gosling, who invented Java. And
Wow.
it's very interesting experience. But when I put that also in the context, Java, the latest version is Java 20 plus. Right now, Oracle bought Sun, they have 20 plus. But in production, they will have old versions of Java. Still, I know Java 8, which was released way back in 2006-7. Their enterprises are using it. Okay, if we put mainframes and Java versions in the enterprise penetration, right, in the production environments, people will be doing a lot of testing and POCs and sample projects. But for enterprise applications or CRM kind of applications, how do you guys see this AI going to the transition or adoption of this AI in this ERP and CRM space?
That is a challenging question. In my opinion, you brought up some key points. It's where is an organization in its journey? Which systems do you have? Also, which systems and which tools are available? I think you need to have a combination. Should you always have the latest and greatest? I don't know. I think, in my opinion, sometimes there's risk and you need to evaluate what you use. I think for those more mature organizations, there may be pieces that you can plug in. So if you think of even going through, to bring it back to a point, to a Business Central implementation or implementation of an ERP application, it's a matter of architecting a solution with the right pieces and putting those right pieces together to get the desired results. But individuals also need to almost change their way of thinking at some points to ask questions outside of the predefined constraints. Because a lot of times people make decisions based on the past. I know running through this woods, I ran into a bear, so now I'm going to make sure every time I come through this point, I'm going to run into a bear. But now I need to make sure if I go down this path, I do all this stuff. But in reality, that bear may never be there again. So you have to take off the constraints of the limitations you had based upon the past, and not think that you need to do something in totality to where you have such a radical shift, but maybe compartmentalize the pieces to incorporate those changes, again, the efficiencies that you can get in AI, to where you can increase the adoption within your organization and ensure that it's going to give you the desired results as well. It's a lot there of what I am saying, but I think organizations need to evaluate where they can get the benefit of using a tool, making sure they use the right tool, and don't use the tool just to use the tool.
Yeah, from that's a good point, Brad. From my perspective, there are two different paths because there's still some human element. As you know, when someone uses a technology on their personal life, they typically bring that to work expecting to do the same thing. There is still a lot of education that still needs to happen when it comes to AI. I've had a lot of conversation with a lot of people, even day-to-day people, that talks about AI, and they think it's a one solution fits all. And as we know in our space, that's not always the case. That's not the case at all, because now we're talking about agentic or agents that are used in the back end to do some specific task or give you results, or just have a plain conversation of when you're having that utilizing AI. So I still think we have a little bit of time that we need to educate everybody that there are differences between the two, because you talked about Gemini, right, as another
Right.
LLM, but then you also have Copilot. And so from a public's perspective, it's just an AI to have a good natural language conversation. But in our space, in the enterprise space, that's not the case. We're using Copilot to do a specific task, to complete a task that maybe is an inefficient task that we need to automate, make it autonomous. Eventually, from my perspective in the future, as we build agents, we're going to have systems talk to each other. And what comes to that means there are going to be things, or unfortunately, positions that are going to be replaced because of those co-pilots or because of those agents. And I think from a business standpoint, that's going to be a place where you need to plan, what does that mean for your business? That means more time for you, maybe more time to be more creative. But even then, creativity could be replaced as well by AI.
It's one of those never-ending cycles, but we also have to. It goes back with time. It's sometimes you have to worry about what's in front of you versus so far into the future, because you don't know and nobody can predict what will happen. Businesses have evolved since back in the early days when they used ledgers with inkwells and pens, right? Quill pens. And now then you had the ballpoint pen and the pencil, and then you went to computers with spreadsheets. So there's always been an evolution of efficiencies and gaining of those efficiencies, and then just a reallocation of talent to do those tasks that haven't been to the point where they have been as made optimal, I guess you could say, or added the efficiencies. So it's.
I think both your points are very valid and very interesting perspectives. The way I look at it is the ROI, right? As a business, they will see what is the ROI on their investments. So especially with the Teams summarization, now when I am using Teams in my workplace, after the meeting, previously I used to take the notes and all that information, or there will be someone who takes the notes and share that after the meeting. Now with the Teams scope, we can get a summary of the meeting pretty quickly.
Perfect.
That is really
Perfect.
That is a very good ROI for me.
That is a great use case. I don't mean to cut you off, but with Teams, turning on the transcription to record it, some individuals get a little nervous thinking I'm going to do the video recording or someone has the recording. But I agree with you. Just something as simple as doing the transcription of the voices gives you the benefit in the meetings that those participants can pay attention to what's being discussed instead of worrying about the notes that they have to take, because you cannot do both tasks at once. If you're spending time trying to write the proper notes, you're not listening. I don't care what anybody says. They think that they can multitask, listen, and basically listen and talk at the same time. So I just want to bring up, like, something as simple as that is a huge gain, and you get actual summaries. And I don't know why. I wish I could have it set where it says, okay, record any call that I jump into for the transcription, so I don't forget, because there have been times like, I wish I had this on, and I forgot.
Do you remember on meetings like that where you have someone's responsibility and that's all they did was note taking? If you guys recall back in the day where you're sitting in a conference, you have somebody sit in the back corner, that's all they did was take notes, right? Like, that's my point, right? Like, there's going to be a shift where that role is no longer needed, and it's a lot more accurate for note taking, right? And so it's always listening, where a human may be distracted and they forgot a specific note. Now with Copilot, to be able to do that for you and summarize and even ask, like, what was the action items out of this meeting, because you want it to be a productive meeting, it's going to tell you, versus having to, like, ask that person, say, hey, can you type that all up? And then by the time you get those notes, it's the end of the day, where Copilot can give you that information right after that meeting.
Yes, I think that You are right that jobs and all those, they need to be retrained, or they will be going into different place in this AI era. That is one of the reasons in the Copilot Studio, Microsoft enables us, as soon as we create the agent, it allows us to publish to the teams first. Teams are, it gives a different channels where we can publish it. Looks like the teams is one of the very efficient way to interact. And another use case also recently, I was working with one of the clients. They had a lot of knowledge base. They went with a big implementation, right, of their ERP, but that was not successful. So they were trying to evaluate, and we got RFP. Me and my team members were trying to look at their business models or business rules. Exactly is their business? So I cannot share the client details, but it is in the healthcare sector. There is a lot of information. They went for the ERP implementation for almost 1-2 years. It was not successful. We got a RFP. So generally, the process was go through all the documentation to understand their business, specific business, their business process, and what are the challenges that they faced. So what we did was, we took their Word documents, their PDFs, their audio, their video recordings, and downloaded the transcripts. We combined all those things and we uploaded to the SharePoint and created a copilot on top of it, and started asking questions to the copilot. Say that, hey, what is the business process? Can you explain in broad, high level 10 steps? Surprisingly, it was able to give us at least 6-7 steps correctly. So we started fine tuning the prompts and adjusting. Given what happens is, this copilot, once it goes to the knowledge source, in our case the SharePoint documentation, in the back end, it indexes and it creates a structure so that the copilot can efficiently go and read and give the response. So we need to do some kind of fine tuning, but instead of going through all their documentation, videos, transcripts, I asked what are the different statuses, what are the major modules. It was able to give me all that information. That was really, reduced my work at least 200 hours just to
Wow.
go through the
It's
documentation.
incredible, the use. I just get
Incredible.
excited and I can go off on tangents because think now, having all of that information readily available, you also don't need to memorize. And if you can retrieve the
Correct.
information quickly, now you can prompt to get the information back without having to spend time searching or memorizing or going through. Nothing's perfect, but even if it can get you 80% of the way there, or even something as simple as you had mentioned that it can do surprisingly well most of the steps or most of the things that are outlined, at least it gets you started, and it can show you the reference documents where you can look more. I'm waiting for the day where it's like we plug in the microphone jack into a computer to speak, that you have a little jack you plug into your head and you just think, and all of this information will come into your brain. And it's like having an external hard drive.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what's interesting is that you gave this as a perfect example on a specific industry. That's, even in legal, it's the same thing. If you ever dealt with, there's a e-discovery and there's like tons and tons of documents, and typically a paralegal would be the one that's doing that, right? They would have to reference a specific document, and it's a lot of writing and all that stuff. Now you can just use Copilot to do that and be able to summarize or even search for a specific thing, like, hey, did this person say this? And then it'll say, yes, they did, for that particular topic, and then it's going to reference where it found that on the documentation. So that's actually a perfect use case. Sorry, and it goes back to the Copilot that we were talking about, where a Copilot is someone that can, when I say someone, see, I'm referring it now, it's like a human being. It, it it's a tool that coordinates all the other agents. Another perfect use case for that would be if a client interacts with your Copilot and says, hey, I want to look at your products are available based on my description I'm asking. Then it could look at your data database and looks at, hey, these are the items for this available for this business. And then if the client's interested in purchasing that, then that same copilot can call another agent to create a sales order. So it's you got to look at that way, where when we're talking about copilots, that's another use case when it's calling multiple agents based on different tasks. One's informational, and then the other one could be a task where it creates a sales order and then submits it to maybe a business central.
Yep.
So many different ways.
Use cases.
Yeah.
That legal area is legal vertical, especially legal industry, like healthcare is also. So I was very interesting. This AI is going to disrupt more. I was reading somewhere about which areas AI is going to have a very quick ROI. Looks like it's interestingly a financial sector, because everything is really predictable, mathematical. So what they are saying is, in the financial sector, AI will have a lot of impact, means it can bring a lot of ROI. In terms of healthcare, it can unlock a lot of new medicines and solve and come up with a lot of breakthroughs in the healthcare sector. So as in legal, which is more on the documentation side, you are right, Kris. The paralegal work, like a meeting notes, paralegal work also could be now backside, take a back step, or paralegals can use the copilot to come up with their understanding and revalidate that.
Finance is interesting though, because it's a natural large language model, but it does it do a good job crunching numbers though? If it gives you a bunch of data?
I think you need to have the right tool for the job. This is where it goes back to, if you're trying to use a hammer to do math, it's not going to work. If you're going to use a calculator to do math, it's going to work. And this is where I think humans have this natural ability to want to destroy. You build a robot, people will start throwing things at it. Why? Because it's a robot. And I think the same thing when this first came out, everyone's like, oh, I trained it to do 4 + 4 = 9 and not 8. It's silly. But you have to step back. That's not what it's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to retrieve and summarize and show information, not do math. So even go to the agent. The agent that sends the email isn't going to be the same agent that responds to the email in our scenario. So it's a matter of using the right tool. You mentioned
agent.
Model Sai, or the right agent for the job. So I think with finance, depending upon, finance, if you're talking investments in finance, that whole market can spiral if you just let it go AI out of control, because it will just read the patterns and respond to the patterns, and you could just have a sharp crash or a sharp spike. But I think from an organizational point of view, you can use AI to help with financial information, financial reports, or even some analysis of information, which you need the right agent, and you also need to have the proper data. This topic can get me all over it. When it comes to AI within with the world, it's great. But to go back to now Business Central, to go back to Copilot Agent, Power Platform, and the use of AI within that space is where I really like to focus, because
I think Brad, the enterprise, especially enterprise AI, Microsoft, the way I assessed a couple of years back, I think that still holds good. In the future also looks like Microsoft is going to win a lot of Dynamics 365 ERP CRM and go head to head with Salesforce, HubSpot, Oracle in all the spaces, given their ecosystem, Microsoft ecosystem, especially with cloud Azure, with data. They streamlined their data platform. Now they are calling it as a Microsoft Fabric. So that is Satya told that is the greatest enhancement that they did to their SQL Server data platform, right? SQL Server, Power BI, they have ETLs. I worked with their ETLs like Azure Data Factory and SSIS, SSRS, all those things. They all clubbed together, and now they are calling as a Microsoft Fabric. Data is one of the very important things for these co-pilots or agents to work. So Microsoft really nailed it. It is competing. I have good some experience with Snowflake also, which can go to different clouds and gather the information. That's what I was a data architect for a couple of years. In 2017 to 2019, I worked for Ford and FedEx as a architect, solution architect. I started with the programming language. Then in one of the meetings, one of the project managers said, "Hey, that is a matrix organization." I asked, "What is it?" He said, "Hey, that is a PMP thing." So I said, "I am interested to learn. Can you help me?" He said, "Go and get PMP." So I went and I got PMP, and in almost 2009, they gave me a big project. I ran the project. I understand how to run the projects and what it is. I got real good respect for the project managers. Then I looked at the space, and architecture is the technology thing that I like. So I worked as an architect. I went and I got my TOGAF enterprise architecture certification to look at the space, this IT differently. So that gave me a different lens. When I look all these things and put this AI journey, Microsoft is having Microsoft Fabric ecosystem, which is a data which is core to this copilots. It's a knowledge base, and they streamlined their security landscape. They have Azure, Azure AD and all those things. Now they are calling it as Azure Entra. So Copilot is there now. If people have Copilot enabled in their Azure security, they can go and just prompt it and say that, hey, what are the security risks? There are a lot of tools from Microsoft to Microsoft Defender and all those things. So Microsoft platform, especially the implementers or partners are going to win big in this year. That's how I am seeing, given the way they are able to, the Copilot is integrated into all different areas of Microsoft M365, licensing, security, data, Dynamics 365, ERP, CRM, BC, and they created the platform. See, one of the things that Satya did was that VS Code, that IDE, and GitHub, all these things are so tied together. I think this year is going to be, a very good year for Microsoft. In fact, in one of the meetings, I think Satya Narela was saying that he was surprised to see Dynamics 365 is winning a lot of bids, in their sales. I think that's where the power of this Copilot agents are going to be for this enterprise and implementers, especially Business Central space. If we look at right in the SMB space, according to Gartner Magic Quadrant, there are very few competing companies, right?
Yeah.
NetSuite, BC. So in that also, Oracle NetSuite is not having the kind of ecosystem that
Nope.
Microsoft is having, right?
No.
So they don't have the Copilot, they don't have the Azure cloud. They have OCI, Oracle Cloud interface. They are still evolving. Whereas Microsoft, they have Copilot, their UI, and the backend, it's the agents. I think it is
They
going to
can
be
use the
really good year.
connector.
Well,
The
Yes.
Copilot.
there's a lot to Copilot, and you're mentioning the ecosystem from the Microsoft platform, which to me, it's you mentioning that Fabric is sort of a blend of a lot of different separate services now into one level plane. I think the whole ecosystem is changing as well, where you have the ERP interface, the ERP software, the data backend, the automation, the tasks. There's a lot to this Copilot within the Microsoft ecosystem. We talked about Copilot Studio. We're talking about agents. We're talking prompting. Where is the best place for someone to go to learn? And also, how much do you learn, right? I mean, I drive a vehicle. Do I need to know how to build the vehicle? Do I need to know how to fix the vehicle, or just to know to go to talk to somebody, but I still need to learn how to drive the vehicle? Or, where do you go to do what?
But Brad,
that's like this journey.
That's like back in the day when someone says, I'm in IT, right? That's back then it was like, oh, you fix computers. But now that's not the case, right? When you say I'm in IT, and it's like, which part?
If
Because
anyone tells me they're in IT, Chris, I don't even talk to them anymore. Because if someone says, well, what do you do? And they say, I'm in IT, to me right there, that just means I'm not going to talk to you, because you think you do everything and you really don't, because it's impossible to know everything in IT. It's almost like AI, because AI itself encompasses much
So many.
more than what people think it does with just saying a large language model. But Sai, where can someone go to start to learn their journey of maybe creating an agent to do emails for a podcast, or maybe even help schedule their calendar time? Or I don't even know. I'm trying to think of all the other practical uses you could use both professionally and personally to have some of these agents simplify your day so that you have more time to do the things that are enriching you and your life and your family's lives.
Yeah, sure. I think Microsoft documentation is the first place to go. I always refer that learn.microsoft.com. There for this Copilot, there is a very good documentation. Microsoft really improved over the few years. That is the best place. And to know complete details, technical details about it. And if you have a question in the Microsoft Copilot Studio and all those things, go to the forums. Microsoft is having good forums. Dynamics or Power Platform community forum from Microsoft. I answer a lot of questions in that. So that's another good place to get quick answers.
Oh, I'm going direct to you after this. We're going to have a lot of conversations.
You do a newsletter too, right?
That's what I was just going to mention.
Yes.
Yeah.
I publish weekly a newsletter called D365 Copilot Digest on LinkedIn. In that, my goal is to just give a quick update on 4 things. Number 1, Dynamics 365 ERP or CRM. That is first one. What are the updates that Microsoft is publishing? Are they releasing any new copilots? And second one is Power Platform, how the Power Platform is evolving, given Microsoft is integrating AI into Copilot into their Power Platform source like Power Apps and Power Automate. So that is the second topic I write weekly on the digest. And third one is Copilot Studio or AI, Microsoft AI related things. And fourth one is Microsoft Fabric, Microsoft Data Platform related. I feel like these are the core for this next evolution. So I write this LinkedIn digest. You can find that digest on the LinkedIn. I can share that information.
And we'll also put we have a guest page now. So on the episode on the website, we'll also put the profile, which has a link to your LinkedIn profile so that someone could read past issues of your digest and also see the new issues that are coming out. Sai, my mind is blown again. This AI thing, I don't know where to begin and where to end with it, but
You're still confused? Or still?
It's not that I'm confused. I understand it, and some things I say in jest because it's just so much, so fast that I think it's important to find the nugget that interests you or you think that you'll benefit from and be aware of the others and pursue that. It's almost like the master of, jack of all trades, master of none. I think you need to start focusing on where you think you'll get the best ROI for what you're going to do, and then be aware of the other stuff because you may have to change your thought process because of something else that you can incorporate to what you want to do. So I'm not confused. I'm overwhelmed and exciting, and I could go down so many different tangents because AI itself has so many different roads that you can go down, or side roads or side streets, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Broadly, two areas, right? One is B2C space and another is enterprise B2B space. So in the B2C space, there is so much happening. You are right. Who are going to be players, especially DeepSeek model is able to, the thing that happened. It's also very interesting.
DeepSeek R1.
The new.
I need to get one of those, and we'll have an episode coming up shortly to talk about that. But I need to get an LLM installed locally, or do I even need to? Right? That's my question. Do I need to have it, or can I just use one of the existing tools and models and go from there? I think that's a whole other question.
It is like, your personal laptop versus having a VM on the cloud, right? So which one you prefer?
Well, it's a matter of
how do you manage
the Mac OS.
Mac OS.
Well, Sai, thank you. I could talk with you for days, and Oh, you're going to hear from me shortly after this because, Kris, we're going to get some emailing set up, hopefully. Even some...
Yeah, we should build one out.
Yeah, sure.
Even some... Oh, no, Sai, you volunteered.
Yeah.
Didn't you hear that? We have it on
Yes,
recording.
definitely.
So
Yeah, sure.
we'll get some emailing AI set up in some fashion to assist with the scheduling, to give us the opportunity to speak with more guests and not have to schedule
Yeah,
as much.
if you guys are doing manually, we have to optimize that. The 4-hour week book is the best one. When you try to do this kind of really at scale, try to automate it and optimize it so that you can just move on to the other one.
That's
So
where we're looking to
definitely
go. But again, thank you again for all the information you shared. Thank you for all that you do for the Microsoft ecosystem. You share a lot of information. I read your digest, as well as I do come across you at some points in the forum, seeing some of this as I'm reading up on it. So we appreciate all that you do. In the meantime, if anybody would like to get in contact with you to learn more about AI and some of the approaches that are available, what's the best way to contact you?
Yep, LinkedIn, Sai Turlapati, or you mentioned, there will be a page. I will share that information with you. Or D365 Copilot Digest is the other newsletter. Those are the two ways.
Excellent. Thank you again. We appreciate your time. Look forward to speaking with you very soon. Very soon.
Thank you so much. I listened to your episodes. I learned so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sai. Take care.
We appreciate it. Have a good day. Ciao.
Bye for now. Yeah, you too. Bye.
Thank you, Kris, for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, MATALINO.io. And my Twitter handle is Matalino16. And you can see those links down below in the show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care.